No, like I think a central.
Hang on, did we just screw up there?
Yeah, no, I might have just screwed.
We
No,
just
it was me.
screwed up
Yeah,
there, so we've got to edit out this
me.
tirade.
Yeah, sorry. No, just the point where I've come in on that
And
one.
action.
Yeah.
Hello everybody, and we're back for a CCPC, Conversation Couch, potential podcast, depending on whether or not we're waffling. I'm Paul Meenan, and would you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Mr. Richard Bowler. I work for Professional Electrician and Installer magazine.
Professional Electrician and Installer magazine. Have you? I've never heard of that.
Have you not?
Have you heard of that? Oh, wait a minute, what's this? Professional Electrician Oh, yeah, okay. I think there is an article in here that I once read with some six very good-looking chaps who you may know of. But yeah, highlight of my life anyway, which shows how sad my life probably is actually. But yeah, so you're the editor.
I am the editor
of that magazine.
Yeah,
wow.
Boss is the editor. Yes.
So no pressure or stress on you.
Yeah, quite a lot of pressure and stress actually. Yes, as it goes. But yeah, that's the editor's life, the editor's lot, so to speak.
So if you've ever read anything in Pro Electrician magazine that you've really genuinely hated, I'll put his address in the comments below, and his telephone number for you to direct them.
I'm sure there's one or two things maybe that people have
and
probably addressed directly with us.
I think I've
as well.
said in previous podcasts, and I've said publicly before, when I started out as an electrician, the only thing I ever saw of the rest of the industry, literally, because we were in a little bubble when we were in EHFIN in Camden, going to do rewires, and the only time we saw anybody else was in the wholesalers or when we picked up the Pro Electrician magazine. And that was our beacon to talk to the rest of the industry, to understand what was going on, to understand what all these different badges and logos were and all the rest of it. And yeah, that was it. So I grew up on Pro Electrician, henceforth I'm made up. That's career highlight for me. I'm sure lots of the other lads that we actually got the cover and an article about our madness that we're trying to do with E5.
Yeah. Well, you've been in it a few times as well, though, mate. In all fairness, haven't you?
Yeah.
Leading up to that.
The first time was actually my old consumer unit in my old house.
Yeah.
I rewired my old house and I thought I'll stick it in, see if it ever gets in, because I didn't know you at the time. And it got in. Me
shows the vetting process that we were undergoing at that point.
Total. You had no vetting process. It was a crap job. No, it wasn't a crap job actually. It was quite good. I've actually got a copy of that. I hunted out a copy. I think I've got it electronically as well. But yeah, it was my old consumer unit in my old house. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, we actually printed a technical article that you wrote on AFDDs 3 years ago as well, which you gave us permission to do. And then you put this cryptic thing at the end going, could you include the hashtag E5?
Yeah.
Which I quite, well, what does that mean? It will become apparent. Just put it in there.
Yes,
so you wrote a very thought-provoking article.
And I did actually say it's not like a slur or anything that will offend anybody, although some people have been by default. But we wrote and it was at the time when we were questioning and quizzing the draft for public comment and the what is AFDD, and rightly so, because any good engineer or electrician, anybody should be always challenging the stuff that's put in front of them to ensure there's been due diligence, especially if you're doing something with regards to public safety. But at the time we were cynical about AFDD because what we saw in American research. However, step forward 3 years, me and JW even said it in his gaff, we were wrong. The AFDDs genuinely do actually work. I mean, mute the volume on my TV always helps. But yeah, we were wrong, and they do work. However, the application of how they are used and when they are used is quite a complex one, very much like surge protection debates at the moment. And also, there's so many different manufacturers, and whilst they're all made to a common standard, they all work slightly differently. So that price and quality thing is something that's yet to be... But anyway, I'm not going to bore you with that.
No. It's a subject we can definitely go on.
This is a conversation couch. This is blessed by the unicorns of IKEA. All £400
what
worth.
A comfortable couch it is. There's been some sort of big shoes been in this particular
that was me. That was me. I weigh a lot. There's a lot of me to love. But no, so Tom Nargi was the last one who sat there. He was. So he came around. He came around for a Saturday. Actually, it was really nice to see him. He's a absolutely splendid chap, and I think my dog has just. Yes, she has. She's just farted. Yes, she has. God love her. And there's Bella.
And there she comes.
And she's now assaulting.
She's gone over to someone who smells of a similar sort of scent.
It's because you're a dog owner, aren't you? So what dog do you have?
We have a very unusual breed. So he's a Labrador Cocker Spaniel cross. So very lively like Bella.
Okay, yeah.
So he's a cockador. They're known.
Cockador?
Yeah, cockador.
I can't bleep that out.
So we've got the worst of both worlds, some would say. But yeah, no, to sort of cut a long story short on that one, the girlfriend's always had Labradors.
Yeah.
My family's always had Cocker Spaniels, and we managed to find some places that have been breeding them. He was a happy accident on a farm in Norwich. Yeah, he's very much like this one, loves his food, as you can imagine. So yeah, he keeps us. He's aged me about 10 years in the last 3 years.
Dogs, they give back so much love. Yeah, it's mind blowing.
He's absolutely
I have to say, you can tell a lot about dogs from their owners. I've always said that a dog who's mad and crazy and aggressive, their owners sometimes will be quiet, meek people, but they reflect the mirror of the owner. Yeah. So the owner's soul, if they're chaotic and scatty, then the dog will be chaotic and scatty. This dog here is just very loving, because she's a rescue in August. But anyway, this conversation counts. This is not Battersea Dogs Home, although in fairness I got it from Dogs Trust in Basildon. Question for you then. So you work for Pro Electrician.
Yeah.
I've got a few questions actually. What made you get into publishing?
Okay. First question. Well, it's you have to kind of get a bit of a feel for the route that you sort of took into that world. But I think I covered in another podcast last week as well, which I'll try and do a shortened version. Is there another one outside of this?
There is loads, and they're all welcome.
They are. Yeah. No, very much.
And there's probably many more to come.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, let's go back to the original point. It's taken you long enough to get me actually in this position, haven't you? So you have been.
I had to
for
kidnap
a long
you
time.
from your missus.
So we're going to make hay while the sun shines.
And then we're going to go for lunch.
Yeah, we are. We're going to go for a nice bit of lunch. We're going to have a day together, and it has been a long time in the making, this particular podcast. Though, to be fair, so I'm sorry it has taken such a long time. But no, going back to your original point. Finished school. Was looking for work. Worked as a computer programmer for a year. I don't know if you've ever been in that industry.
Computer programming.
Yeah.
I thought computers peaked at Claris Works.
Okay.
which kind of, I remember we got computers in school, the old BBC computers, and then we got some Apples. And I remember we had a room that was under super locks. Yeah. And once a week, every single student of a certain age was brought in there and told, these things called computers, you're going to have to learn to do word processing, but don't worry, you may use them, you may not, they're just a tool.
Yeah, okay.
How, my God, look at the everybody's glued to them now.
I know they are.
Who in the God's name knew that every human being under the sun would be glued to a computer constantly? And the worst thing is again me being controversial, I genuinely think computers in the last 20 years have contributed to the lack of social skills. Because I get hundreds of emails at work and I'm like, call me.
Yeah.
Ring me.
Yeah, no,
I'm a man of my word.
Yeah.
Just frigging call me. If you want to cover your arse, then that speaks volumes about you.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. It does seem to have taken away that conversational element that people have with each other. I think when I refer to our job, sometimes I think the way the world's changed a little bit at times is that no one wants to make notes of a conversation you're having with them on the phone. So you end up almost duplicating that process by having to send a follow-up email or regarding the same sort of thing. So I can understand why so much. But yeah, no, mate, I mean, the world's changed. I mean, if I take a look at what I was doing originally for AXA, ever heard of AXA Equity and Law or AXA Sun Life? So I was working for quite a big blue chip brand at the time. But yeah, no, I had to do all these back-end processes, and we programmed in COBOL, if anyone's ever heard of that before. But I have to say, I didn't find it particularly interesting at all. So one of the things that I've always loved and always really enjoyed is writing, reading, being creative and expressive. And I think one of the pathways that I sort of looked at that potentially could be available was maybe the publishing world in that respect. So I went off and did a journalism degree at university. Had an idea of what I wanted to do, which was be a sports journalist and a football writer. So I won't be honest on camera, but everyone wants to kind of do that when they're younger. So the process sort of evolved with me getting an opportunity to work at Hamerville, answering a small advert in the newspaper at one stage, not knowing anything about what they did in terms of trade magazines and how that worked. But went in, found out it was professional electrician that I was interviewing for, just got a really good feel about the place, about the industry. So I wasn't particularly interested in the electrical sector, as you can imagine, at that time.
Does your microphone come off? Yeah,
shoot. Sorry. Do you think that'll be? Shall we start again on that one then?
Sorry, no, don't worry. Yeah. Just clip it to your thing and stop getting so bloody excited.
Yeah, sorry. I think Litland was up on the lap at one point as well.
There you go. Right.
So yeah, I'll go back to that. Yeah, I answered an advert in the newspaper, and then ended up getting a job opportunity at Hamerville. to come on to PE.
So you work for Hammerville Media. Is it Hamerville or Hammerville?
So they're called Hammer. Yeah. So that's one of the great things. So there's no two M's. It's one M in there. So we're Hamerville Media. We were formerly Hamerville Magazines, and over the last little while to kind of sort of be representative of the kind of all-encompassing nature of publishing houses now, rather than just magazines. They do every trade shows and digital and all that kind of stuff. So we're now known as Hamerville Media Group. So yes, we're employed by them. An organisation that is best known for its print publications that serve trade organisations and shows and things like that as well. Just very trade focused so B2B communications through publications and trade shows and digital platforms and things like that. And we have lots of titles that maybe you and a few of the guys that have been on the podcast will be familiar with. You mentioned PHPI, Professional Heating and Plumbing Installer. Professional Builders, our flagship title. So that was the first one that started things off in PE.
I found, if you don't mind me saying, is the Pro Electrician magazines always seem to fly off the shelves in the wholesalers. There are some people who will never read them, because I think the only people who would be interested in Pro Electrician are the people who actually give a damn. Yeah. To be honest with you, because I know lots of electricians. I remember growing up. I remember specifically sitting in the van or outside a church rewire. This must have been about 97, 98. And I remember sitting there engrossed in a Pro Electrician magazine. And I remember the electrician I was with, Chris his name was, and I remember him saying, "Why are you reading all that rubbish?" And I was like, "I'm learning. Did you know that you can get these bits of kit that make what we've just been doing for the last 4 days take hours?" Yeah. And then he was like, "No, well, I don't really look at it because." And at the time, I didn't realise what it was all CPD.
Shame on him.
No, but it was CPD. No, that's all the magazines are. Whatever you may think of them. Some people will go, "Oh, magazines are full of adverts." They have to pay for themselves some way, but they are CPD in a bite-sized form that you can literally pick up, leave in your van. And for all the world of digital, it's still quite handy when you're eating your lunch. It's still a recognised way of doing it. Although we are moving on to the platform of social media, YouTube. I would never ever take CPD from Twitter as long as I draw breath. Twitter is just the epitome of everything that's wrong with social media. It's too toxic and people don't get the written word. Especially electricians, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean it as in we're too aggressive, we're too angry as a trade at times. At times, not everybody. Don't everyone hate me on Twitter, but it is just the most misconstrued.
It can be a very statement-based platform, Twitter. So we're digressing slightly, but people do go on there a lot, and they will make statements and possibly aggressive statements. I always think again, it's what you just alluded back to earlier, Paul. The beauty of conversation, having a conversation with someone face to face, is you can see what the tone of the conversation means, essentially. So are they being sarcastic? Are they actually being narky with you? Sometimes people will actually post statements on Twitter that aren't being aggressive, but actually they're construed to be that way because that's how someone's interpreted it. So that's the beauty of the conversation. If me and you were having that conversation face to face, you'd know what tone we were having that conversation.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
I think that can be one
of
the
intent of the narrative is quite powerful.
Yeah, but no, I really appreciate what you say about the CPD as well, because I think any kind of learning that you do through a publication, whether that's learning about new products or it's getting a little bit more technical with your CPD and learning about the 18th edition or anything really which is helpful in your work, I do think it's some form of CPD. So I do think you're absolutely right in that, Paul. And we like to view the magazine as being that kind of resource for people. So I mean, I'm more interested. Can you remember any of the stories that were particularly prevalent in the magazine? Because you were reading the magazine well before I was an editorial. A blot on the editorial landscape.
Do you know what? I used to love
what used to be talked about.
It was, to be honest with you, it was the technical articles, the NICs. This is before they had the days of their Snags and Solution books, which are awesome. Yeah. Before they came out of that, those articles made up what is, I suppose, the foundations for what became Snags and Solutions. But for me, it was always the debate pieces. It was always the, did you know that you do or you don't have to earth a back box, and these are the pros, these are the cons, this is the consideration you have to give. I love that because it was just bite size, and when I'd read it, I'd go, right, that's the answer. Yeah. And why is it the answer? Okay, it now makes sense because they've quoted all the sources of information. Sure. And I used to love it for the NIC articles. This is before the days of SearchShaw and
well, I mean, we still obviously retained them, so they're still a regular thing in the publication these days, which we hope proves a kind of useful resource for guys. But latterly now,
Napit also they do some crap. Napit do some crap. Talk about up in the game. Napit, I have to say, in all fairness, the guys who they've got locked in their offices writing the technical articles have massively upped the game, and I love it when you see something that nobody's really thought about or discussed. And you look at, again, if you look at the wine regulations, special occasions, there's so much that we could explore there we haven't even started to explore, because they're only tiny little sections and it's very specialist. But I think some people will find it interesting. It also helps if you want to diversify what you do as a contractor. But anyway, right, so you work for Hamerville Media. You're the editor of Pro Electrician magazine. You got into it because you were doing computer porn. Computer porn, did I say computer
around about that sort of age.
Yeah, computer pornography. No, you were doing computer programming.
But probably always wanted to be a journalist, really, in my own mind. So that kind of just confirmed doing the year out of not being, doing a journalism degree and that kind of stuff. That kind of confirmed.
So what made you? No, let me rephrase that. Not what made you. What do you enjoy about your job?
There's lots of really interesting. I think when you sort of look at the kind of monthly process that we go through. So again, one of the things to just anyone that's sort of watching the ramble today between us both is it's a monthly magazine. So you go through a process. You're quite deadline driven. You have to be organised. You have to get yourself, properly organised well ahead of time with everything. But I think the one thing that I really enjoy about the job is no 2 days really are ever the same in the job. So, for example, tomorrow I've got a whole day in the office. Today I've spent the afternoon with you out doing stuff that we hope will be useful for the publication, useful for you guys as well. Wednesday I'm out on the road again meeting some advertisers. So I have to say life absolutely flies past. I'm sure it does for you in your job, because obviously you're an incredibly busy guy, much busier than I am, which is a lot. Life must just fly past for you.
It's like these series of micro switches. It's like relays, normally closed, normally open relays. That's the only way I can describe my brain most days, where it's like a work issue, another work issue, an E5 it, or PE stuff, or something with NAP it, or something that we're trying to do. The amount we said at Christmas when we took December off. Just to be clear, we didn't take December off.
The winter break, didn't you?
We didn't. Well, what we did was we just stopped using Twitter and Instagram and everything else because we were just so tied to it. People emailing us, we just stopped. Christmas, I spent most of Boxing Day. Oh, look, the dog wants her bone. She's very disappointed. It's the last one, darling. There you go. So Christmas, I spent sending out E5 badges.
Yeah,
pretty much most of Boxing Day, all day.
You sent me a picture of you doing it on Christmas
Bloody
Eve.
hundreds, bloody hundreds of them I was doing. And so that was we were doing, and we were knackered, we were shattered. So we were literally taking December to catch up on a backlog. Yeah. And we were exhausted. Come the new year, it was like the 10th of January, and we kind of like wished each other a happy Christmas, happy New Year and all that, but quietest time we've ever had an E5. And then it was just like, come the 10th, it was like a text message on a group. Oh, I'm knackered still, I'm knackered. Oh, we better get going. And it was really hard going. We're now on February the 20th?
Yeah.
It feels like the amount of stuff we're working on, the amount of stuff we're doing and planning. Yeah. It's like this morning I've been on the phone to Dave about his Sparky Ninja stuff, about E5 stuff, about other
You've had a couple of other
partnership bits. Yeah. We've had other people from the industry on the phone, all sorts of stuff, and the day job.
Yeah. Yeah, mate, I don't know where you get the hours in the day. It's frightening.
It's about 4 hours sleep is actually the correct answer. Yeah. But in all fairness, I've always lived on about 4 hours kip a night because my old man used to be up at like 5 a.m. He would go to bed late, and it kind of just
it becomes inbuilt in you after a while.
Well, when I was on the tools as well, when I was doing I was working all out under the sun, so it just became the norm. Yeah. And doing E5 stuff is like a battery. I mean, I'm going to Devon and Cornwall next week, and I'm doing 3 lecture tours, and I've finished the PowerPoint. I spent all weekend doing the PowerPoint, literally all weekend doing it, and it started at 139 slides. It's now down to 60, and I sent it to Dave this morning, and Dave just went, oh my god, there's so much
you're going to have to cut it down.
no, but what he said was that it was so much content in it. Sure. But what I want them to do is when they go and see it, I might even Instagram live it, but when people go and watch it, what I want them to do is to not take everything away, but take, oh wow, I've got a lot to learn, or oh, I didn't know that. Or if they take 3 or 4 small gems, or a view of I've got a lot to learn, or they go, it was too quick, it was too much, but I'd love to reread it, then at the end of it they get a copy of it.
Oh, that's great then.
So I always give out the training material I do, because why wouldn't I? No, I don't know why the training industry hoards and holds on to crappy old 17th, 16th edition material. I've done courses where the whole course was like 17th edition Amendment 2, and you're like, you lazy bastards, update your material. Don't do death by bullet points. Most of my slides are visual.
Yeah.
Picture.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and if anyone's watched our prosumer stuff me and Dave did, there's bits of that I've stuck into there, covering the topical bits, but giving it a independent view. So I'm doing that next week, and it sounds mad because they're like an hour and 15 each night for 3 nights. But that's a battery recharge for me.
Yeah, of course.
Plus, it's also good because I can get to go on holiday with my missus afterwards as well, which is even better.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, you need to have a very understanding missus. I would imagine at times, mates. I'm sure the odd holiday will sort that situation out.
She watched the video that we did the other day,
and
I think the penny finally dropped for her.
Yeah, I love the video. Yeah,
she was like, so that's what you do, and I was
who was the artist on the video, by the way? I mean, I was interested. This is a question I wanted to ask you. So the song on the video, on your friend's video that you guys did, so that I watched last night. So,
it's Feeling Electric.
Love that tune.
It's called Feeling Electric, and I can't remember who the hell did that song. They'll probably
put you on the spot.
They'll probably sue me anyway for using it. But no, it's when we did our E5 live events, we played it over the PA.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I thought it was a very happy, upbeat song.
Yeah, so that's what I like about it. Yeah.
And we played that, our E5 music and Sparky Ninja's music.
Yeah.
Just on a playlist.
Okay.
And it was just very low in the background.
Yeah.
But if you stop
like a Chinese torture thing in there.
Yeah. Well, no, but if you stop listening, you could hear Feeling Electric, and I thought it was very prevalent.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So it was actually my mobile phone that chucked up. There's a highlights video on YouTube somewhere. Find it. And it was a year and a half's worth of stuff, and my phone said, "Here's some highlights for the last 6 months." And I thought,
great.
I've not done anything. I've done little videos, but there's loads of videos we've never released, loads of footage we've never released.
Yeah.
So I put it all together, and it was about 40 minutes. And I went to my missus just said, "Don't be stupid, chop it into little glimmers."
Yeah.
And what's your point? And I was like, "It's been really fun. It's been really humbling working with my friends." And she went, "Then make it fun." So then I just edited it together. So it was all of us having a giggle, having a laugh, and just doing bits and bobs. And it came out really well. And the first time I rendered it and played it on the big screen, which is just behind where the camera is, I teared up. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
It was so cool.
Did a good job with it.
So there's a few other secrets on this conversation couch.
Yeah.
We're going to tell people in the electrical industry secrets that they've never heard ever before anywhere on any podcast.
Oof.
So I'm going to lead, but you have to agree or disagree with the secret. So me and Mr. Richard Bowler are going to now tell you something about the electrical industry that's going to blow your minds. Okay? We are wrestling fans.
Big style
wrestling.
Big time.
I am a man of the 90s. For those who don't know what a man of the 90s is, it's when you turn 18. What decade?
Yeah.
I turned 18 in the 90s, and I grew up with wrestling. My first wrestling event was SummerSlam 88.
Yeah.
Okay, and that goes back a bit. And I have literally watched every single pay-per-view, period, since then. I've got WWE Network. It's sad for a spot, and I know it is, but my God, what a nostalgia trip. I don't really watch Raw anymore. I do watch Wrestle Talk.
Yeah.
Because you ain't got time.
No, there's so much of it on telly
Wrestle
now.
Talk and highlights. God love YouTube for it, but we are massive wrestling fans.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah, well, that's what part of our, we obviously have work conversations whenever we speak to each other on the phone, but a big part of it is actually
it's actually wrestling. Yeah, have you watched that? No, I haven't watched that yet. AEW,
But my interest in it is actually slightly different to yours as well. Is that I read a lot of what they call the dirt sheets and the background stuff that's going on, because I love finding out about what influences the background in the industry, and I'm pretty obsessed with it all, to be honest with you. So obviously I haven't watched all the pay-per-views like you over a period of time, but my interest has been, I've spent lots and lots of hours doing background research on how the industry works, things going on in there. You know all about that as well. But we love it. We love it, to be fair, don't we?
No, we do.
Bit of male soap opera.
It is a bit of a male soap opera. See, for most people who hate wrestling, and loads of people who switched off now and gone a bunch of weirdos, it is the thing I love about it, and Bella loves you. Look at her tail, it's going bonkers. Thank you for the
tag team partner.
Chicken thing. One of the things that I love about wrestling is the fact that it is the most athletic thing because if you think falling back and doing all them stunts, let's be honest about it, it's aerobics in a ring, where you sacrifice impacts on your body. Yeah. That is a sport that will destroy your body, take it out of you, damage your health, damage your brain, and they do it
very quickly.
300 nights a year.
Yeah, they do, yeah. Yeah.
It's insane. And they storytell and act, some badly, some brilliant. The 80s, it was terrible. It was just tights, trunks, and a little sign and a bit of music, and that was it.
Yeah.
But now, the efforts they go into is just...
Yeah. Well, it's a multi-billion-pound industry, isn't it? You know.
The question I have for you is, favourite wrestler of all time?
Favourite wrestler of all time? I was thinking about this on the way over because I didn't know we were obviously going
to
possibly have this conversation.
You should not have to think.
It spans across different eras, though. That's the thing.
Ooh,
so I'm sort of conflicted.
Okay.
So if we look at the 80s and when I first sort of came into and probably around the same sort of age as you, actually. So I was very fortunate in that my mum agreed that for my birthday present one year, Sky TV was going to be. So we were one of the first houses, I think, even locally to have a satellite dish up.
Same here. B Sky B. It was a hexagonal type.
That's it. Yeah.
Weird shape.
It was a terrible eyesore.
And if the wind blew, you lost your signal.
So I think going back to that, myself and my sister then, because I've got an older sister, and one of the rules of me being allowed to have Sky is that my sister had to be allowed to watch it as well. At the same time, there was MTV and different things like that.
You mean when MTV actually played music?
Yeah, they did, and it was a fantastic channel.
It was, and then they stopped, and I went to VH1.
Yeah, I did as well, mate. Which
I knew I was getting older.
Yeah, no, I loved VH1 to be fair, with Paul King on there quite a lot and lots of different guys, but. No, I think my first memory of wrestling was watching Wrestling Challenge and
Bobby
Wrestling
Heenan.
Superstars, which so they would have 2 shows, 1 hour a week and that was on Sky One, or one of them would be on Sky Sports or Sky One. But my first ever, what you would call as a pay-per-view, was I was searching around German channels that were in the background as well, not looking for weird because I was quite young at the time.
Hey, Paul.
But one Friday night, a pay-per-view popped up on there, which was being narrated in German by the German commentators. But I thought, I've never seen a pay-per-view before, so that was very good. Yeah. It happened to be SummerSlam 1990.
Oh,
so I think we'd got Sky in something like late 1990s.
So that was
or
Rick Rude versus Ultimate Warrior in a steel cage.
It was indeed, and it was also
first time I saw a cage, I was blown away.
Well, this was the thing, but the actual first match that blew me away, and the one that I turned on as the ring entrances were coming on, was Heart Foundation versus Demolition, best out of 2 out of 3 falls. And from the moment I watched that pay-per-view match, I was in love with wrestling, and there were various things going on in that. The Heart Foundation, where you've got obviously the Anvil and the Hitman, who are these 2 sort of polar opposite type technical wrestlers. To a certain, Hitman was very technical, Anvil was the bully, wasn't he?
The power of the bully.
And then you had this Demolition, this group of guys that came in with these sort of leather outfits, and quite intimidating.
In the 80s, it was badass and cool. Now it just looks.
I mean, it looks incredibly campy.
Well,
now.
it looks fetish and dominatrix.
Yeah, it
looks fetish and dominatrix. Demolition. When you're a grown man and you look back, they were your idols, and you realise you were worshipping some weird
and that was actually probably the joke behind it.
That probably was.
I bet if you looked into it, they probably was the joke behind it. But the thing they were running at the time with Demolition is they'd got a 3rd member, which was the first time I'd ever seen this. So they obviously used to come in their masks, and they used to hide one of them underneath the ring. For anyone who's not particularly educated in this side of things, and he would come out later in the match sometimes to replace one of the guys that was more tired. And I have to say, from watching that match, and the Heart Foundation actually went on to win despite all the villainous tactics of their opponents. And I was literally, from that point onwards, I was head over heels in love really with wrestling. So my favourite probably in the 80s were British Bulldog and Bret the Hitman Hart. And then if we're looking kind of 90s moving onwards, CM Punk probably latterly was my kind of hero in the 2000s. Really got me back into wrestling and some of the things he was doing out of that later 2000s.
You do take a break from it. I'm not going to lie.
I've had numerous breaks.
I don't get me wrong, I've watched every single WrestleMania always. I've watched the Royal Rumble always. But I've gone literally like a year or 2 where I've watched nothing other than Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
So what are your thoughts like about the current product then? So while we're on the subject,
it's a bit of a car wreck. They've got no direction. They keep reimagining the same stories, same stuff, same hero villain stuff. There's never anything new. I think they're scared to let people be original. When people are, by accident, they then become big stars. I like what they're doing in the women's division. I think they need to give them more time, which is a good thing. The cruiserweights having their own separate thing was just dumb. But for me, if I put that question on myself, put myself, Bret Hitman Hart, I met him when I was 15, WWF champion, Wood Green Shopping Centre. I cared more about holding the Wing Eagle belt than meeting Bret Hart.
Well, so explain again the concept of the Wing Eagle belt. So that was a bespoke belt.
It was, it was indeed. And I met Demolition about 3 years ago at a Comic-Con, And one of the members of the Demolition, I think it's Smash, was an electrician.
Was he really?
Started as an electrician. So I got to meet. So this is how dumb it is, right? Yeah. So I go to Comic Cons occasionally with my best mate, and we do dress up and act like weirdos, but that's fine. And what's the matter? You don't like Comic Cons? You don't? Sorry, this is Bella's interrupting us. We're recording.
She's going to boring us now, Daddy.
Yes,
boring
well, come over
you wrestling.
Come up and have a cuddle then. Come on for a cuddle. Oh, bless her. So yeah, we go to Comic Cons, and there was a whole load of wrestlers, and there was queues for all the modern wrestlers, and Axe and Smash were standing there with their face painted, and I was like, what the heck? So I walked up and went, why is there not a queue? And they were like really nice, and they engaged, and me and my brother got a selfie with them, got an autograph with them, and he said, what do you do? And I said, I started my life as an electrician. He went, oh yeah, Smash. Hey, he was an electrician before he came a wrestler. I was like, really?
That's incredible.
And he was like, yeah, and I went, I used to watch you on 98 and stuff on my neighbour's satellite, and they were really nice, really humbling. Anyway, enough about us.
Just an interesting question on that one actually is that WWE obviously used to base a lot of their characters around trade professionals even back in the day, didn't they? So you would have had Duke the Dumpster Drosy, who was a dustman, wasn't he? You had Bob Sparkplug Holly, who
Repo Man.
So you had Repo Man, but he was obviously he was a thief also as well, wasn't he? Which was Smash. So again, in WWE terms, they would often repackage characters, wouldn't they, after a while?
This has turned into a very different conversation couch straight away. But hey, who cares? It's our conversation couch. We can talk what we want.
But did they ever do an electrician character? Don't remember if they ever did. Maybe there wasn't enough villainous about an electrician. Maybe they were just too good people.
No, if they did an electrician character, he never would have been champion, and he probably sat around tossing it off. Or he would have been wiping his backside with $50 notes, professing that the electrician trade is the highest paid. Well, here's a question for you. Going back into electrics.
Yeah, sure.
Who in God's name comes out with all his statistics that state that sparks are the highest paid gods known to man? I know there are websites where they on the tools where they do these videos. Very funny one of a guy drinking champagne and smashing. But it's so not true. It's mind-blowing.
You have to treat a lot of those surveys and things that come out with a pinch of salt. In all fairness, because normally what they're done from a very small survey size a lot of the time. I would, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've walked around your gaff, and you've told me about the plans that you've got to extend this place. And it sounds to me like electricians are doing all right for themselves, actually, as a career. So, you know, I've stepped into the boudoir upstairs as well.
Excuse me. I am a semi-retired part-time electrician, just doing the sockets that you see on the wall next to you at the right height, and everything else. So that's about the extent of my electrics now. Is if I'm helping someone or I'm doing my own. And that's about it. I'm a client now, which people will shoot me for saying for the millionth time. But electrical installation is still my hobby and my passion. Henceforth, all my friends are electricians anyway. Apart from one who's a civil engineer, but I don't hate him. I just take the mickey out of him constantly. Because he makes out it's a big thing like digging holes with a shovel and filling it with concrete. It's complex. No, it is. It is. In fairness, it actually is. But okay, so
I think it's a lot of those referral sites that put out those sorts of that sort of content. So I would say that the electricians certainly should be. So I wouldn't necessarily say that you're talking from your experience of being on the tools. A lot of people in the trade.
People listening to this and watching it, if they're watching on YouTube, they'll be immediately saying that there's a race to the. It's a good question. What do you think of the race to the bottom?
I mean, a race to the bottom. So it doesn't just exist in the electrical. So if I've talked to you before about coming from the automotive side of things, and one of the biggest problems and the biggest buzzwords that we always had when I was working on that publication, when we talked to readers, was the race to the bottom, and how it was putting a lot of what you would call dyed-in-the-wool mechanics who were well trained potentially in jeopardy because they were losing out on price-based quotes, etc., etc. Look, the race to the bottom is a terrible thing for any industry, but I think it starts to change itself. That situation will start to change itself based on two things, really: is the education of the people that are employing the individuals to come in and do the work, whether it's in their house or at a commercial
site. Which is very difficult.
Which is incredibly difficult. And then the second one is the faith and the onus that the electricians themselves that are charging for this work put on themselves. So I know there'll be a lot of people out there would say, well, I want to charge £120 an hour for labour, I want to charge £100 an hour for labour, and there's a guy down the street who, by hook or by crook, might be classified as being as qualified or as competent as me, but how can he charge £40 an hour, and that's costing me the work.
So that's the race to the bottom. So there's multiple parts of the race. If you're not familiar or you're trying to understand what the race to the bottom is when you go out and you do a tender for some work and you charge in good faith. You've done a survey, you know what you need to do to comply with the regs, you've mapped out the job in your head, and you've given a fair rate based on all of the rubbish and the overheads that you have to pay as a registered tradesman. So I'm using a one-man band as an example. There's some fantastic people on Twitter who actually share examples of what makes up all of their fair rates. At the end of the day, good quality is not cheap. Loads of people want cheap, which means the quality is rubbish. Yeah. Now, they'll lose out to someone who's done a 5-week course or a 12-week course, who will go in, not map it in the head, not have half the overheads. And so if somebody says, I want to, let's say I ask a guy off of social media to come and do my consumer unit, he'll come around and he'll say, right, well, firstly I need to do an EICR because that's just good practice. I would kick him out of a house if he didn't want to do it anyway. And check all the bonding. My price will include for EICR any works that I've seen from doing my quick check, survey works, and also I'm going to price for a new consumer unit plus profit and various other bits and bobs. So I'm going to charge you, say, £1,300 for that. But by the way, I've only allowed 1 day to do the EICR. Yeah. If there's other faults, they'll be charged at an hourly rate of, say, £75 an hour. Yeah. So I know what I'm getting, fine. A 5-week course person may turn around and just go, it's £300 for the board, charge them $250.
Well, look, what I would probably stop with the conversation there, it's not necessarily a 5 week. It doesn't necessarily even have to fall into the category of what you might class as a 5-week wonder. There are lots of people that are out there in the market operating who might not have maintained their CPD as they're going along, or might not even
I agree.
Have the faith in their business.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. However, the coalface, the lads on the coalface, it is the short course people that are doing this. And if someone who had enough experience in this industry, they wouldn't be leaving the lash up. So there's a lot of people on social media who will go in after they've lost to a race to the bottom competitor and have to fix that person's problem. And that's where the industry doesn't take any ownership whatsoever of that individual. Now, a lot of people on social media, they'll say, oh, the NIC or NAPIT or Stroma, they're not accountable for any individuals. It's like someone saying, Richard, you're accountable for my actions. You're going to go, how? How? I'm not babysitting him. I'm not his mother. I don't sit over him every 5 minutes. And I think the problem is it's industry oversight has been very poor in the past. I do think in the future it's inevitable that the industry is going to grow and emerge and change because technologies are growing, emerging and changing. The need for skills is getting greater. The skills and the experiences are getting lower. And so something has to shift, and I think it's fairly evident as of recent you're seeing a shift very slowly of even the ECA are not endorsing short course people. They're now basically saying publicly 6 years to get your approved cards. That's a fantastic thing. 6 years of demonstrating your practical skills is good because what that's doing is that's reinstilling the faith. It doesn't mop up everything, but if you think change is going to happen quickly, it won't. I've always said our industry's been slowly broken down for 20 plus years. It will take 20 odd years, hopefully maybe quicker, to put it back into a good state. But the only way it is with the intelligent, skilled people helping and supporting those who are currently in the industry and also those who are coming into the industry, which is frightening. I mean, again, if we go back to the kind of point I was making about being in automotive previously, and like they don't have a central governing body in that industry, so there is not what you would class as a government-regulated register of individuals. It's amazing considering every vehicle can be killed. Me and you could, you and I could easily tomorrow open up a premises next door to this building and start trading as garage technicians, as obviously they like to be called these days, or the guys that are time served and have done their CPD in that industry and have done all of the the knowledge based stuff, because it is such an ever evolving industry, that one as well. But on that side of things, from their perspective, me and you could start trading tomorrow. We could start operating out of a garage, and pretty much you could guarantee that it would be a race to the bottom for us from that first point, because we've got no overheads really that we've had to invest in. We haven't had to invest in our CPD and training. We haven't had to invest in the right equipment to fix that individual's car, all of the business practices. So whenever anyone is going out to quote and tender for work, and if you are concerned about the race to the bottom, and it's not always going to convince the customer to go with you, just be 100% transparent and honest about what it is that you're charging for, and ask them to maybe get a detailed quote or a breakdown from the other individual that may be
racing to the bottom, so to speak, and you know,
it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because when I go for my car service, I go with a main dealer. But I have, over the years, I went with Ford once, God help me, I know, don't hate me for it. And Ford, I remember, used to charge me like £400 or £500 for stuff. Yeah. And it used to just boil me. And I used to be like, why is it so much? But then I'd go to a local garage and it'd be like, it's £90 for that part.
Yeah.
It's £90. The labour is like £75. Yeah. I was charged over double because it's Ford.
Yeah,
by Ford.
So it's the bells and whistles. I mean, again, you know, it is slightly different when you look
funding,
at the electrical industry.
Yeah, but that's funding the profit machines.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's not good.
Well, I mean, here's a little tip for anyone. This is about consumer rights when it comes to your vehicles and your cars, because we all drive cars and that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah.
Go on then. One little tip. You should all be aware of what the block exemption regulation means in that industry. And if you aren't aware of what it is, essentially, when you buy a new car, you're often told, or you're under the impression, or made to feel under the impression, that over the warranty lifetime of that vehicle, so it could be a 3 or 4 year warranty that you get with that car, is that it has to go back to the dealer to have its servicing work done for it to not then invalidate the warranty. Absolutely factually incorrect. You are allowed to take your car, whether it's in warranty, whether it's 1 year old, 2 year old, to an independent garage to have that car serviced. And there's some terminology which is very grey in that industry. So as long as the garage in question is using the equivalent of the original quality of parts, which takes every good garage quite a lot of it, they need to interrogate, they need to find out who. So again, another little tip for you: Peugeot, Ford, any manufacturer that you see out there and you're driving their vans or their vehicles about, they don't make parts. Parts are made for them. So probably actually in some respects the correct way to describe those entities are vehicle assemblers. They're not necessarily vehicle manufacturers, because they're not manufacturing the parts. They're assembling the vehicles on a production line, and they're using parts from lots and lots of brands that you may have heard. You know, Bosch are big in that world. Bosch are massively big in that world. Siemens is a big contributor to the automotive industry. So in that world, yeah. So there's a few things that you're learning when it comes to that.
I'm not privileged enough to, even though I want to refurb my house, I'm driving a Kia, dude.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, that's fair.
I drive a white Kia with a red roof.
But I think for anyone that's got like you need to understand what your rights are, because I think those manufacturers or assemblers, as I might call them, or vehicle manufacturers, would have you believe that that there would be problems for you taking your car to an independent. But you need to know what the laws are, and certainly in a good independent garage will know as well. One that's invested in themselves.
So what laws do consumers have to protect them in the electrical industry?
Well, maybe you can tell me a little bit more about that one, because obviously we
I'm
have
just thinking out loud.
We have some organisations that kind of are there to look at more consumer facing stories such as electrical safety.
I'll put it out because my brain's a bit blank at the moment. The electrical safety first, I've got some amazing stuff on the website, but the consumer unit in my house, when I moved in, I could hear an arcing off of it, and I had some issues with thermal issues. It's a nice word for a fire. But yeah, I didn't know at the time, but my board, until I checked electrical safety first, was under a recall.
Okay.
And I didn't know, but luckily, again, electrical safety first, always check out their recalls, because the amount of sector boards that were put out that were recalled was mind-blowing, and they probably only got a very small percentage of them back.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing. But from laws to protect consumers, I think trade descriptions, trading standards. But as far as, and this is one of the things that's always griped me a bit, is in the electrical industry, if you have a registered contractor coming to do the work, part of the complaints procedure for, as far as I'm aware, and somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, all of the various voluntary bodies, NAPIT, NIC, etc., they all have a complaints procedure, which is excellent. But when you go in and put a complaint in about an electrical contractor, step one is you have to give them the opportunity to put it right.
Sure.
Now, who the hell wants a tradesman in who's screwed up putting the work right?
And I think that's probably some of the issue, You
don't. So I did, on my last house, I replaced the roof. This is where I used to live in Hertfordshire. And I sat literally a week off work reading all the roofing standards. So I was like, right, what standards are them tiles? What standards are the battens? So I literally would download, this is really sad, I downloaded the British standards and I read them, got a highlighter pen, and I went, and it said, this batten must be installed like this. And I was like, that's not right. And I literally looked at all the bits that a layman needed to know. So I ended up snagging the roofers. Now, anyone who knows roofers knows they're quite burly and aggressive and have no fear. And I gave them a 12-page snag list of the roof. And the look on their face was priceless, because obviously I retained $5,000.
Yeah.
And the bloke came back with the snag list printed out by his boss, because his boss was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He was a very fair, good, honest businessman.
Yeah.
But the builders weren't used to being snagged.
No, but they weren't.
And it was absolutely incredible what was going on. Hang on, my dog has now got trapped in the leash. But yeah, so don't be afraid to snag. But I hope in time the industry bodies will change that complaints procedure to saying they will, as part of your fee, as part of your fee, they will send an independent contractor around.
Yeah.
Who will then snag the work on behalf of the body, who can then say, yes, it's got merit or not. And then they can basically put sanctions on the individual contractor or an improvement notice until they've then done enhanced surveillance and inspection to up their game.
Concept.
That's and basically they've got two choices: agree to it or do one, and then regulate the industry so that people have to have registered competent individuals or companies or organisations. And then that way the consumers know if they're not using someone who gives them a certificate or has an industry recognised brand, they're using cowboys.
I think when you look at the electrical industry, I think, again, should it be up to the customer to have to do the interrogation work in the back end? Of course, whenever any of us ever buy anything or employ someone to do something for you, there has to be an element of interrogation. But I think when it's an industry that you don't know an awful lot about yourself, and you're certainly not technically qualified or proficient to do that work yourself, and there's a safety critical element to it as well, there has to be at least, what you would call a central identification.
So I've got a controversial thing to do. So years and years ago, when I worked for British Gas, they had something called a quality assurance manager, QAM for short, and any gas fitter who did the work, the QAM used to go in, and his sole job was to complete the work. But his job was to check. He was this was not a youngster. This was a seasoned veteran of installation work who had lots of management training, lots of additional safety training, someone who was aware of the legal obligations, not just a tradesman, someone who'd stepped up, very much safety conscious, quality conscious. And I remember when I worked for British Gas for those years, he would go out and he would ring me up and he would say, I've just been at this job, I've just checked the other electrician's wiring, can you come and fix it? It's wrong, I can't leave this. And what he would do is, in fairness, to cover British Gas's backside, he would actually just say, got a few bits that are incomplete that I'm not happy with, we'll get someone back out to get that completed. He wouldn't say, by the way, he's done an absolute lash up, the geezer's a nightmare, we're going to pump him. It'd be, this is what we need to do. And I found even with the gas fitters, he got to know them, but he instilled in them a healthy, I know people are going to hate me saying, a healthy fear that when that your work was being checked by someone. So if you were pissed off and you were upset and you were there on a Friday and you think, oh, just sod it, I'll lash this pipe in or I'll do this, and nobody will ever know. He genuinely crawled for everything with a fine tooth comb, and would absolutely really destroy his fitters if they weren't doing the job properly. Bella really loves you.
That's all right.
Sorry about her.
Darling. Hello. Yes.
She's like, high five. Do you want to talk about the electrical industry?
She says, I'll have a couple of. I'll say a few.
I want to bite you, actually. I just want to chew on you for a bit.
So no, I mean, like you said, I think obviously some of the organisations that are looking after the industry as we are, they don't want to scare people. Don't want to be, they don't want that rule by an iron fist and rule by fear thing. But I think
I've got an idea. I've got a very controversial idea for the electrical industry, and then we'll probably wind this up a bit because we're probably going off on one. What if? Here's a magic what if. What if we had, via the CPS schemes, bodies, voluntary regulated bodies, whatever you want to call them, what if an electrical as an improvement initiative, there was a voluntary scheme where when you go in and do an electrical installation, there is a follow-up inspection done by someone independent, and that snag list is then a snag list produced if it's needed, or advice sheet for that individual contractor to improve themselves. And then if they've gone through, say, 6 to 12 months of it, that contractor is then only re-inspected every 3 years.
Yeah, because you've been confident that over a regular period.
Because your work has been regularly inspected.
Yeah, you can feel confident that individual's got...
But what you're also doing, the reason behind it is the hearts and minds reason of you can go in and the electrician should hopefully feel confident that a peer, an industry peer, will think his work is good enough, which will build him up. And where it isn't, he'll have someone who put his arm around him and go, you could have done that better, or you could have done that better. Oh, by the way, if you did do a lash up, you're going back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's a real consumer confidence. Electricians who have nothing to hide, who I think are very humble and open, will always
makes mistakes in their work at different times, don't they?
The trouble is, it's the unconsciously incompetent. Yeah. And I have met sparks, and I hate to say it, I have met sparks who couldn't care about industry bodies, couldn't care about CPD, couldn't care about even doing a good job. They just want to go in, put a light fitting up that can take 10 minutes for 50 quid and disappear, cash in hand. They don't give a damn. They just don't care. They're using social media to get their work or whatever. Yeah. They don't give a toss. And I'll be honest with you, those are the people, to me, I would sanction and throw out the industry.
Sure, yeah.
Because they're the people that are the bad apples that ruin the best.
Yeah, and like you said, like going back to the original point you made at the very start of when we started filming, is they're probably unlikely to be the type of people that are reading our publication on a monthly basis as well. That type of individual.
But you're digital,
you know what I mean? So
you're digital.
We're a bit of both.
So imagine this is my iPad. Yeah. Then this magazine, which is January 2020's magazine, can also be accessed digitally at any time. Yep,
it can. Yep.
And you can read about our adventures.
Yep.
No, I'm only joking.
Flickbook.
But it's on Flickbook. It's really good. I can do it on my phone as well, although my phone's a bit small. But no,
there's no excuse really. If like there's a lot what you said, we include a hell of a lot of technical content in there and some great contributions. I think just going back to some of the points that we were just talking about a minute ago. One of the things that one of the things that I do love about the job, and I do love about having the responsibility on the publication, is we can stimulate debate through the publication. And one of the things that we've obviously been trying to stimulate an awful lot of debate about is industry improvement and how people feel that can be done over a period of time.
I'll tell you one thing I would love to do, mate. I would love to sit down with the people who do the marketing for their adverts.
Yeah.
Because some of the adverts that I see in your magazine, if I can give honest feedback, some of them are great because what they'll say is, here's a new type of back box for sparks that work in partitions. Yeah. Really simple, quick and easy to fit. Have a look.
Yeah.
And then you get other ones who just bombard it with weird random pictures and too much information overload.
Yeah.
And it's not contextualized. An electrician, when I'm looking through this, I always look for something that catches my eye.
Yeah,
straight away in this magazine, I can see that Prota have got a 3 and 7. I'm not advertising, they don't pay me. But this is a perfect example. Prota, 3 to 7 pole ceiling rows in white or black. Right now, that's something easy for sparks there. I think that's an awesome advert. Yeah. Simple, contacts on the bottom, job done. Some of the marketing out there.
Yeah, no, one of the conversations we do have with our advertisers at different times is to try to get them to understand the things that might work in a print publication in particular. And if you look at the way that we actually produce our editorials as well, my most fundamental consideration when we're looking to do anything is to try and keep it as simple and easily digestible as possible on the page. Every single article that we really run in the magazine, you won't see anything longer than like 3 pages, for example, in the mag, because we just feel that that's too long a period of time to hold someone's interest. So again, when we're it's up to any company to decide how they want to advertise themselves in the publication, and different companies do resonate with other people. But I am more of the mindset of you is that I think less is more.
Yeah. Well, I think if there's any manufacturers out there who do want some, I'm not an advertising guru, by the way, but I do know about brand, and I know how to hopefully keep people's attention, although nobody's listening to this because we spoke about wrestling. But if you want any advice, by the way, for free, please feel free. And if you don't want advice for free and you want to give us some money, then I've got a better idea. Get us in, we'll give you some advice and just give some money to charity. If it makes you feel better. Because some of the marketing out there is, I remember once I had a lighting manufacturer came up to me and they gave me a whole load of spiel and they showed me their marketing. I went, oh, this is fantastic. And he went, really? I went, well, everything you've just spent a half hour telling me about isn't in your marketing. And you could have done a brilliant advert with like 4 lines. So what the hell have you just done? And the guy looked at it and he went, oh yeah, I went, because everything you've told me that makes me want to buy your product is not in your advert. Other than a picture. And that picture asks more questions than answers. No, like I said, different things do resonate with different people at different times, but our view is, I think sometimes some of the things that the individuals can fall foul of sometimes as well is they've got some space in the magazine that they've obviously booked for that particular advert, and they want to try and say as much as possible in that space. Whereas, rather than trying to concentrate on just quantitative
maybe one
over qualitative,
but I mean that's one of the challenges. When we go back and we talk about the things I like with the job, I love going around the country and meeting all of our the parts suppliers that you see or parts manufacturers that you see in the magazine, we meet a lot of them on a yearly basis and find out what launches they've got.
This
and
industry,
great new things and.
This industry is incredible. If you're privileged enough to go around and meet the manufacturers and different people, it's incredible. I remember years ago. Sorry, Bella, I know you're crying because you just want cuddles. She is, bless her. I remember years ago I went to meet a switchgear manufacturer in Nottingham. I'll name them, AF Switchgear, cracking switchgear manufacturer for industrial commercial applications, and they were the salt of the earth. Factory was amazing. People were amazing. The apprenticeships was just off the charts, and they were a community, and they genuinely loved the fact that when someone came in, I was doing a panel for Crossrail.
Yeah.
So they had someone in who was doing it was the very first piece of switchgear on Crossrail was from AF Switchgear. If you now go onto London Underground or Crossrail, there's loads of it, but their build quality was so good.
Yeah.
Proper old school. It was dyed in the wool, proper manual engineering. It was a lost art, and that company impressed the hell out of me. And I remember leaving there, buzzing, going, I'm not just buying something for a job, I'm investing in the British economy, and I love that. Not that there's anything wrong with buying from abroad.
No, not at all.
But I'm a massive fan with buy British, invest in apprenticeships, invest in jobs and opportunities for people. It's just the way I roll.
Well, there we use the B word in any conversation. We won't go too much into it, but I think
bastards. The
other one that we were discussing at the end of last year.
That was for politicians to talk about.
I think I'm too simple an individual. I am a simple individual, as you'll be able to tell from sort of watching this conversation between me and you. But one of my thoughts about if that process did actually go through, and the day that we did leave after the leave vote obviously sort of came through, was why can't we put some more manufacturing roots back into Britain, and why can't we start building things and making things ourselves again?
We're out of Europe,
and no one's given me an answer as to why we can't. People say we can't do it, but why can't we?
We should do. I want to buy British manufactured cable. I want to buy British switchgear. I want to buy British lights. This is for my railway. I want to buy as much British assembled. I want whatever money I spend in my day job, I want it to be helping people in this United Kingdom with earning their salaries, feeding their families and living their lives. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Some people say is it right or left? I don't really care what the difference is. It's all bollocks. To be all that left and right is a load of shite. Call me a middleist every day of the week. Okay, all right, well listen, we're going to wind this up. If that's okay.
No problem at all.
We want you back for a podcast, so we'll get you on
back
to
discuss.
That's where we do the Skype stuff
with the boys,
with the lads, hopefully. And is there anything you've got to say as a final thought or confession?
No, not really as a confession, but obviously just to talk about possibly about our involvement with one another as well. So I think obviously
confess,
confess, man. I think sometimes people can be misconstrued sometimes in the way that they see things, and I always want to try and put across the point. There were a lot of people that saw you guys on the front cover of our magazine and the 3-page article that we did inside, and you've been a guest on the stand at Elex quite a lot of the time over the last year or so, and I think it's interesting to kind of look back at I didn't know anything about these lads until obviously Paul contributed this technical article to the magazine that had this little hashtag in the corner, and then I think it was actually 2 years ago at Elex Exeter, me and you got to sit down and actually have a cup of coffee for the first time. And that was the first I actually got to learn about the E5 group. So you boys were on the radar, a fair bit before that, and doing your stuff. And
I think one of the things that are probably a lot of people, we should be honest with them, everybody probably thinks that we're like living in a pro electrician's pocket or whatever. Just to be clear, I'm a firm believer in I'm quite a believer in traditional values. I see pro electrician as very much the backbone of CPD for our industry. So I've always been a firm believer of, if I have the ability to get out to the Alexis, go to support the events, to encourage other people, which is why we did all our weird videos of me holding the phone up going, come to Alex, come and see all these old blokes with grey hair and people saying stuff. But no, I do. I'm a firm believer in supporting. Thank you for the cover, because
no, you're very welcome.
I still haven't paid you for it.
Well, no, I think one of the things I was mindful, but when we go back to your little winter break, you and the lads, so this is talking about the life of a journalist, being able to to plan what you're doing and everything like that. the January issue was always going to be the one that these lads occupied, which had been decided about 6 to 7 months previous in my own mind. Anyway, I didn't know you were taking the winter break at that point, but I thought it would be a good one for us to do to start the year. But obviously it tied in really well, and it actually kept you nice and relevant around that sort of, not that you're irrelevant.
Well, Mark, we did say, look, everybody, we're on it. Please go and read it.
And you guys did
for our own selfish reasons. And then it took me a miracle. Then let's tell the story of what happened at the last elect. So I turned up thinking, I've got a copy. I've got a copy. Right, I've got a copy of Pro Electrician magazine, but I need loads because Dave needs some, Ryan needs some. Send some to my dad.
You want to sign some?
Because my dad, my dad wants a copy because he's not proud at all, apparently. So I wanted to send some, and then we turned up, and who do we see? David Savoury all over the place. And we're sitting on their stand on the February issue, and they're going, who's he? I'm going, he's no one without a McDonald's hat. No, in all fairness, Dave's wicked, and I have mocked him privately, which was
really fun, but he took it all in good, really.
As it should be, as it should be. David Savoury is a wonderful YouTuber and a really nice chap. And funny as hell. But for me, we were just made up because we don't do it for any recognition or anything like that. We do it because we want to show people that everyone in this industry can be friends, can be friendly, can help each other, and sometimes many minds make light work. And our industry at the moment is in a very fractured and frail state. And if you're going to be different. And I'm sorry to say this, but doing the same thing we've always done doesn't work. And our industry doesn't see it because sometimes we don't see the woods because there's these weird things called trees in the way, and so it's very difficult for parts of the industry. And if we do anything, it's to shake people up and make them think a bit more dynamically, a bit more differently, and hope that the output of what we do with individuals or with an organisation can improve someone's CPD or somebody's business or somebody's life or a product. Anything we can do that we think we can measure, great.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the appealing parts about art. So again, if I look on a sort of smaller scale, we would hope that if to a certain extent the magazine can be, is represented in a similar way. Is that but on a smaller scale to what you guys do, is that we're an independent source, and we're hoping that we can improve people and like you said, see that wood for the trees, challenge some of the things that aren't necessarily being challenged. And obviously, myself as a journalist should have a more inquisitive mind when it comes to those sorts of things. So and talking to a lot of people that are on the front line of the industry and challenging in that way. So
I think there is some weird rubbish out in our industry at the moment. There's some crap, if you don't mind me saying this, there's some crap out there at the moment that shouldn't even exist, and it does, and it markets itself as innovation and wonders, and you're just thinking, really? Really? But that you've been able to buy them from RS for 20 years. How are you? Oh, wait a minute, you've come up with a quirky name or something else, and you just think to yourself, I think true innovation.
I think you always have to put yourself into the shoes of the people that are marketing that particular product as well.
But if you lead with marketing, then you're immediately going to have a bias. If you lead with genuinely what's good, the innovation, because innovation, I like the definition of something that is of a benefit to a business is innovative, but making money is good to a business. That's not innovative.
That's
just making
true.
Money.
That is true.
I genuinely believe that it is something that really makes the business better or the products better. And I love some of the products that are out now, because I wish to God I'd have had them 20 years ago. The super rod stuff's really cool and awesome. The Wi-Fi.
Which things do you particularly?
The cable tongue is probably for me is good.
We featured that Tom.
The back box chaser. That was really good because I've actually used it on my ones. Although in fairness, if you look at the photos, half my walls collapsed. But the good thing is when your wall does collapse and you're chasing, you just rebond it and it's stronger than ever. But there are some good things that have come out,
and it must be more and more difficult to innovate. I mean, again, looking from the the aspect of the people that are making these products, just by definition, it must be more and more difficult to come up with innovative stuff, isn't it?
The reason I was told was energy. If you look at the cost of an electrical installation, energy efficiencies have pretty much peaked. So if you look at a cost, 20% of it is in energy, but the 80% is in the manual labour. So the buying the product and the energy used is 20, but then the labour is the 80% of the cost. That's where they need to get the cost down. However, there's skills, and if you walk down the skills, you will lead to mistakes. A lot of mega projects, I'm not going to name them, but mega hundreds of millions of pound, £1 billion projects, they fail because people divide up all of the installations and the trades to the point where there are all these grey areas and nobody takes responsibility. And it comes down as simple as poor marketing, poor procurement, poor everything really. But anyway, that's another ramble for another day.
But going back to the original E5 thing, so obviously we've had a nice relationship sort of built over the last couple of years really, and obviously I got the chance to meet all the guys for the first time in the flesh at the Coventry Elect show, which you guys all came to en masse.
That's our annual convention, yes.
Yeah, and you guys, I would just say, again, if anyone is questioning whether there's a commercial agreement or what these lads do, PE promoting some of the things, and we don't promote everything you lads do, and we don't endorse everything you lads do either, to be honest with you.
No.
And you don't us, which is absolutely right when you're both independent formats. But I think you cannot help but admire what you guys are doing, the time and your own money and everything that you put into it. Your generosity with me, I mean, if you'd have charged me for every conversation we've had where I've asked probably what would be classed as a fairly basic technical question to you, and your patience with myself and my colleagues from work. So Anthony works on PE as well. There's been plenty of conversations where the two of us have you've been very, very good with us in terms of explaining how something is working technically and getting us to help our understanding of it. And I just think that nature that you guys all have about you is something that's incredibly appealing. But it's not necessarily common in every sector and in every group of people that you meet.
Sadly, it's a sign of a broken industry, and I've worked and I see plenty of it. But again, if you're going to choose to be different, and why wouldn't you be nice?
Yeah, cool.
I'll try to anyway, at least.
Yeah.
Not necessarily saying, by the way, we're going to be nice to everybody, because some people we're going to have some very difficult conversations with, and we have had difficult conversations with. But that's another story for another podcast.
It is indeed, yes, for another day yet.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Wrap up then? Yeah.
We'll wrap this up.
Good stuff.
Richard Bowler.
Cheers for having me.
I'm Paul Meenan. That was Bella. So your apologies.
She's been a star, and she's been the main star of the show.
She's coming back. So I'm going to end this with the usual words: take care of yourself and each other. Thank you.
Cheers.